Hey, it's me again! I did something stupid. You wanna know what it is? I participated in a presentation night with some friends in a Discord server, and I ended up presenting a video presentation because otherwise my computer would have lagged, given that it's a MacBook. So with that being said, I would like you all to join me today in experiencing the dumbest thing I think I've ever watched. Now, for anyone that knows anything about this channel, I'm sure you're curious, why? Why the genuine hell am I making a video on this? Well, here's the thing. I participated in a presentation night, I said in the intro, with a few friends of mine over a Discord call, and let me just tell you, that was fun as hell. So much fun, in fact, that for every upcoming presentation night going forward, I'm probably going to be doing the exact same thing, so get this, much more content from me, folks. As a matter of fact, I have another video I'm editing right now that's going to be like 40-something minutes, if not like 50. Somehow longer than this one, and it's on one character. I don't even understand how I did that. Anyway, yes, as I said, we had a presentation night with the topic being a series of some sort, and I, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, chose the Godzilla Monsterverse films. Now, I gotta preface this here, there are a few bits of this that have been recorded over several weeks, over multiple different recording sessions, and a lot of it might be a little bit disjointed. Nothing too crazy, but I just figured I'd say that off the bat because you're gonna see me being in front of this little backdrop here with different shirts, different outfits, and just going along as if it's fine. So just figured I'd say that. Anyway, without further ado, let's hand it off to past me for more exposition. Now, before we get started, I have to preface this video with a couple things first. To start off, welcome to the dorm. As a matter of fact, let me show you around real quick. This is where I've been living for a little while. It is the dorm over at my college. Things are nice. It's a good little setup. I got all the trinkets and everything. It's cool. The Bill Cipher backdrop too. I mean, are you kidding me? Anyway, point is, it's pretty cool. I like the space and just wanted to preface the fact that y'all will be seeing me a little bit more often in here. Now, my first slideshow was made via Google Slides, and I tried screen sharing my computer, but unfortunately the lag was so strong that once I found out at the very end how it was actually streaming, I realized 80% of the content wasn't even shown. And if my streaming is that bad, well, imagine a bigger presentation down the line when I want to talk about something more in depth and I have a bunch of bits, but if I'm lagging, it's just not going to screen share properly. So I figured I'd start converting my presentations into YouTube essays just because that makes more sense to me, because it'll also allow me to talk better without being interrupted by lag, and it's just fun. This topic I chose was due to the fact that I, a little while ago, became obsessed with the Godzilla Monsterverse films, a series of which is so stupid I can't even begin to explain it to you. Now, I love monster movies and anything of the sort, so once I found out the series existed, I thought, okay, that's pretty fun. So I watched one, then another, and then slowly devolved into realizing, oh my god, these films are so stupid and I love them to death, so I had to make a video on it. Now, something about these movies I have to preface is that there is so much that happens in them that I actually had to compress down all the original footage that this video is supposed to be about into a shorter thing just so I can get it to be below 30 minutes. Or rather, 31-ish minutes based on how the original video was edited. The point is, we had a time limit for the presentation, and I literally could not meet that time limit because there was so much to talk about. Now, here's the thing about that. When I started doing this video initially, I thought to myself, maybe I could just make a bigger video down the line and then just, have that original one I made as something I could put for there, and then use parts of it to make a bigger video after the fact. But the thing is, I edited so much of that video, and it's already 30-something minutes anyway, and to be fully honest, all the content I didn't talk about was all the stuff that wasn't necessary to just talk about the crazy shit. So instead of doing that, I'm going to go back through the original video, put in some extra edits of things I might want to add or change, and then basically keep everything else the same other than this intro portion, which is totally redone. I kind of like this idea better because originally what I did in this video was I talked about basically only the stories of the actual monsters and titans themselves, and hardly even remotely talked about the plot points of the humans, to a point where I actively skip over major portions of their plots. It's just that it would add another like 30 minutes of content, if not more. So essentially what you've got today is I will be giving you the bare bones basics of the entirety of the Monsterverse, excluding the comics, how everything works, how it operates, and what the hell is going on in the first place? Originally I was actually going to hand off the video to myself right after this just to kind of explain the video itself, but I kind of like the idea of doing a rewrite better, so let's just go from here. The way this video is going to be structured is I basically have 5 movies to talk about as well as 1 series. Now I'm going to say something right now that some people might not like. If there is a prequel to something, I like watching the prequel first before I watch the original material because I kind of like the idea better of watching it chronologically rather than how they came out. Yes, this This means that I watched Better Call Saul before Breaking Bad, and it means that I watched Kong Skull Island before the original Godzilla. I get the idea of watching the source material first so that the secondary movie for the prequel makes more sense when you watch it, but to be honest, I like the chronological events just because that's how they happen, so why wouldn't I watch them like that? So if you'd like, you can watch these in a different order, but I'm gonna explain the way I watched them and then go from there based on how I structured the video. First movie to watch would be Kong Skull Island, followed up with Godzilla 2014 right after that. Secondary to that, we have Godzilla King of the Monsters, followed up directly by Monarch Legacy of Monsters, which is the series I'll be talking about later. And then finally, we have Godzilla vs. Kong and Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. Those two fucking movies. Those two movies, I promise I will talk about a lot more later, but oh my god, they are just something else. Compared to everything else in the franchise, these two are like you took those original movies and then set them up to 11 and then just completely removed parts of the plot that make sense in lieu of something just fucking ridiculous. Anyway, I digress. You get the point. I'll talk about them later. So with all that said and done, I really don't think I have anything else to introduce this. I suppose the first thing to do would be to kick us off with Kong Skull Island. Alright, it's time to start speedrunning. We have a lot of groundwork to lay here, so I need you guys to prepare yourselves for a lot of rapid-fire information. The movie begins with a man named Bill Randa, along with his assistant, attempting to get confirmation from a US senator to permit them passage to a new island discovered via satellite. Bill works for a company named Monarch that effectively acts as an organization that documents and researches giant monsters, a company of which has nearly zero funding by this point, after the government has pretty much considered them useless for having no evidence of said giant monsters. Bill's assistant eventually convinces the senator to let them tag along with the team that wants to conduct a geology survey of the island, and Bill also requests a military escort to the island to accompany the research group going there. Now, this military escort is led by one Colonel Packard, aka Samuel L. Jackson, someone of which I will talk about later. The group sails to the island and finishes the trip via helicopter with those troops, as the island is surrounded by bad weather that is near impossible to sail through, but just possible enough to fly through. I'm sorry, did I say bad weather? What I meant to say is that the island is surrounded by a perpetual goddamn hurricane, something that fully hid the island from discovery until satellite imaging revealed there was actually something there. So the helicopters eventually get to the storm, they make it into the eye where the island resides, and due to the eye being pretty much calm for the most part, the island itself is relatively normal weather once they get onto it. One of the helicopters lands and sets up a seismograph to begin monitoring seismic readings from the island, to which the other helicopters begin dropping bombs to shake the island to see what the seismograph picks up. The group then finds out, to their total disbelief, that the island bedrock is basically hollow. We'll get to that later, because for now we have to pan to Kong absolutely eviscerating the helicopters. See, the entirety of the group had zero idea that the island was infested with giant monsters, aside from Bill Randa, whose association to Monarch basically presents him as someone who knew way more than he let on initially. Guys, I can't fucking do it anymore. I wish I could record all of these clips. I really wish I could. I wish I could put them all in there. I wish I could put the whole movie in here, then just commentary over that. I can't do that, though. Taking every single clip and putting it in there is hell. I can't do them all. It's gonna be a slideshow from this point, okay? So we're going back to roots here, but everything will still be from the movies. That's a promise. Okay, we good? All right, back and we go. Anyway, after Kong kills a bunch of the troops, Packard then becomes dead set on murdering Kong for the entirety of his remaining screen time. This desire to kill Kong is so strong that Packard actually leads the group into danger several times to accomplish it, nearly leading to the deaths of every single survivor that he was taking charge of. Now, aside from Packard, we have a few other primary characters that we gotta discuss. There's a tracker and a war photographer, aka Loki and Brie Larson, who are traveling with some other assorted characters in an attempt to reach the north of the island in 3 days to rendezvous with a pickup team to take them off the island. In doing this, they come across what looks to be human civilization. This tribe that they come across is known as the Iwi, who will become insanely plot relevant later in this video. Amidst the tribe is unexpectedly a random fucking guy named Hank Marlowe, who had been living on the island for over 2 decades. Hank was a World War II pilot who crashed on the island with a Japanese pilot named Gunpei Akari after dogfighting in the area, with the two of them then becoming friends rather than enemies after realizing they were both stranded on the island together, full of monsters. Gunpei unfortunately passed away before the events of this movie occur, with Gunpei and Hank both working to build a boat to escape the island before Gunpei died, and left Hank to live with the Iwi alone. So the group, finding Hank and the Iwi, fix up the boat, and I just need to include this clip from the actual movie real quick because you just need to see this shit.
I can't tell when I'm talking or when I'm not talking. You're talking. Am I? Yes. I'm talking? Yes. Your mouth is moving. What? I'm gonna stab you by the end of the night. Really? Just kidding.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of Hank in this movie. Anyway, after that, the group meets up with Packard and his troops who attempt to kill Kong, to the chagrin of every other person in the group who doesn't want to do that. Unfortunately, as Packard forces all of them to trek to get explosives to kill Kong, Bill dies. You will learn later why Bill Randa is plot relevant. Oh, you're wondering what killed him? That, my friends, was a skull crawler. The general things you need to know about them are that they live in the hollow space beneath the island, and they were woken up by the bombs dropped earlier. So, rightfully, Kong is pissed the hell off now that he has to fight them. Hand to Packard almost succeeding in killing Kong, Kong then kills Packard, and then the super big bad, no good, evil skull crawler appears and tries to take down Kong. Kong kills it, roll credits. Now folks, I've been hiding something from you throughout this part of the video. Remember when I said the island was hollow before and that there was a storm perpetually surrounding it? I'm going to explain this in as simple terms as I can. The Monsterverse version of the Earth is actually hollow, with nearly all of the big monsters in the franchise coming from it in some capacity. And the Earth isn't just hollow like a ball with an empty core, the thing has this fucked up dimension hopping bullshit where you can either go down a big hole in the ground to get there, or go through goddamn portals that transport you into an underground world lit up by a subterranean sun. No, I'm not joking here. Skull Island has one of these portals beneath it. They put me on fucking Skull Island! That leads you to the hollow Earth, and it gravitationally binds the storm to the island. So there's that little fun fact for you. I hope this all made sense, because it only gets more ridiculous from here. And now, a word from Godzilla.
Hey, yeah, it's Godzilla here. I just wanted to say, I appreciate Teddy for putting the time into making a slideshow about me. It's pretty cool, and I appreciate the audience for watching, and yeah, Godzilla out.
Thanks, Godzilla. It's a pleasure having you. Now, the next movie on our list is 2014's Godzilla, initially focusing on Walter Hartwell White and his wife that dies in a nuclear accident, sending him into a conspiracy-fueled frenzy that lasts about 13 years before the main events of the movie occur. Walter's son thinks he's fully crazy for thinking it wasn't just a nuclear accident that killed his mother, and entirely brushes off his dad's beliefs, despite the fact that he absolutely is correct about it being something else that caused her death. Walter then convinces his son to sneak into a restricted, irradiated area near the old reactor plant to gather some old files he needed to solve the conspiracy he's been cooking up, only to result in him finding that the place isn't radioactive at all. Now this immediately shows that some sneaky shit is afoot, given that the area is totally safe despite all the warnings of death saying otherwise. The police immediately find them and then take them in and bring them to the reactor, where the aforementioned sneaky shit is revealed to them. The people working at this facility happen to be agents of Monarch, housing a giant egg that apparently had been feeding off the radiation of the reactor in preparation to hatch. This being the same exact creature that caused the original nuclear accident. The creature finally hatches and turns out to be this fucking thing. This is known as a Muto in the film, aka a massive unidentified terrestrial organism. This Muto then destroys the facility and escapes, killing Walter in the process. Now, unbeknownst to Monarch at the time, a secondary female Muto had also hatched and started making her way over to the male Muto. The idea was that the two would lay eggs and spawn a bunch of other Mutos, and the world is kind of worried about that, reasonably so. Now there's one main man helping run Monarch named Ishiro Serizawa, who had been studying Godzilla throughout his time at Monarch. Serizawa is convinced that Godzilla will appear to bring balance to the planet by killing the two Mutos before they could mate and destroy the world, to which Godzilla does exactly this by appearing about an hour into this movie. Just something I figured I'd add, Godzilla is only in this movie for like 9 minutes while the Mutos are in it for 16. What the fuck is that about? Anyway, Godzilla does end up appearing, yeah, as said, and once he does so, the military immediately fucks everything up. In preparation for Godzilla appearing, and in an attempt to protect civilians, the military starts bringing tanks onto the Golden Gate Bridge as Godzilla swims to the San Francisco Bay, where the military begins shooting at him. This causes Godzilla to immediately book it the hell out of there. They put me in 2014 fucking GD! As he rams through the bridge, a bridge full of people trying to get off of it, might I add, with the entire event culminating in tens of thousands dead. Anyway, after this, we pan to the end of the movie where Godzilla fights the Mutos, proving Serizawa right, and concludes as Godzilla swims away into the ocean after his victory. This pretty much sets a precedent from this point on, where Godzilla acts more like a force of nature and protector of the earth than a giant evil monster, where he himself is not actually remotely hostile towards people directly, just happens to kill them when they get in the crossfire between other titans. That's something that will be very prevalent throughout these other movies. Moving right along, the next movie on the list is Godzilla King of the Monsters, where a mother and her daughter team up with a fucking terrorist to end the world as we know it. The mother has developed a technology that, with no exaggeration, is the most overpowered shit on the planet. The Titans apparently have some sort of whale call system where an Alpha Titan basically just produces a frequency that makes all the other Titans submissive to him. And what the mother in this movie has done is produced a machine that can produce that sound, effectively giving her control over all of the other Titans. Her and the terrorist plan to go to Antarctica to release a super evil, oh so evil Titan trapped in the ice. That of which being what Monarch calls Monster Zero, aka King Ghidorah.
It's motherfucking King Ghidorah!
Ghidorah is basically an alien that fell to Earth, and he's the only current rival to Godzilla, so once they release him by blowing up the ice, shit is about to go down. So they release the giant three-headed dragon. So Godzilla starts fighting Ghidorah, where you have Serizawa as well as the rest of Monarch holding out hope that Godzilla will win the fight. The United States military, however, has absolutely no confidence that Godzilla will win, and have been preparing for this moment by developing a super weapon known as the Oxygen Destroyer. Do not question what it does or how it works, just know that it's basically a big nuke that can kill Titans. But it's more like a funny nuke, because it doesn't destroy shit, it just kills apparently. Now Ghidorah survives this, and Godzilla nearly dies from it, so Monarch has a funny little idea. I'm gonna say this as straight up as possible, and I hope you're ready to hear a genuinely unhinged plot point. After this fight, Godzilla goes under the ocean into a massive man-made cavern that siphons energy from the center of the earth, allowing him to heal and hopefully fight Ghidorah later. Monarch knows that this will take too long to occur naturally, so they decide to speed up the process. This results in Serizawa sacrificing himself by bringing a nuclear bomb into the cavern to blow it up mere feet from Godzilla's face in an attempt to bring him back from the brink of death. So they blow up Godzilla with a nuclear bomb to heal him with the nuke's radiation. And believe it or not, it works perfectly. In fact, it works so well that Godzilla turns into a walking runaway nuclear reactor that produces so much heat that he can melt steel just by walking near it. It's fucking ridiculous. This results in Godzilla basically expelling goddamn nuclear explosions from his body that annihilate Ghidorah by turning him into nothing but dust. Godzilla wins the fight, he becomes the new Alpha Titan, and then the credits roll. So now that we've established the first three movies, I need to take a quick detour to talk about a TV series associated with this movie franchise. I'm gonna boil this down as much as physically possible because there is a lot to talk about. Remember Bill Randa from earlier? Well, decades prior to the events in Skull Island, Bill worked with a woman named Keiko along with the new Captain America from the Thunderbolts, aka Lee Shaw, to start up Monarch and gain funding for it from the government. Cut to the government trying to kill Godzilla.
They put me in the fucking nuke!
Anyway, Bill is the man that discovered the goddamn Earth is hollow after watching an ant crawl through a hole in a sheet of paper and walk back out through another hole in the same paper. This causes a chain of events consisting of the government working with Monarch to find an entrance to the hollow Earth, to which they then find one and plan an expedition into it. Now, I have to bring up the insanity of the hollow Earth again. The entrance they find into this realm is not just a big hole in the ground, it's another goddamn portal. A portal that apparently, when going through, requires a Titan to go through first to permit a person safe passage into the hollow Earth. Keiko and Captain Lee Funny go down into the portal, and as expected, things don't go as planned. Keiko is stuck down there and does not make it back up, whilst Lee does manage to get back to the surface. There's one little wrench thrown into the works for Lee though. It's now 30 goddamn years into the future when Lee comes back. Apparently, anyone that goes through the hollow Earth portal incorrectly experiences a ton of time dilation, so that sucks. sucks. By the time Lee shows back up on the surface, the events of Kong's Skull Island had already happened, and Bill had died before Lee could see him again. Kaiko is also alive, by the way, just figured I'd mention. She comes back in the future too, so that just know that. I'm fully skipping the main plot of this series other than mentioning how Monarch came to be, because everything else I'm talking about is just what's plot relevant. There's a plot here, but it doesn't bear any weight on this. Speaking of the plot, when Kaiko comes back, that actually occurs at the end of the series. This happens when she and a group of other people come back to the surface, where they find themselves in a facility owned by a company named Apex Cybernetics, as the season concludes with Kong appearing in front of the facility. So that implies that this is on Skull Island, so that's, that's something. This implies that Apex had a little base on Skull Island, yada yada. This is important for the next movie, you get it. That company will be important in the next movie, so put that on the back burner for a second. Folks, it's about this time I'd like to mention that for the rest of the movies going forward, Kong will be off of Skull Island. Now, you're probably wondering how Kong got off Skull Island with it being permanently surrounded by a hurricane. You remember Ghidorah from King of the Monsters? Well, something I forgot to mention earlier is that King Ghidorah spawned what the movie describes as a fucking Category 6 hurricane that surrounded him at all times as he moved across the planet. Ghidorah's storm ended up merging with the one surrounding Skull Island after he died, causing the entire island to basically be destroyed and become unfit for Kong to live on. This forces Monarch to step in to help relocate Kong, initially housing him in a holding facility before attempting to relocate him into the Hollow Earth. One more thing to add, by the way, the storm that ravaged Skull Island killed off every single member of the Iwi tribe, aside from one little girl named Gia, who is somehow able to talk directly to Kong via sign language. A little girl that's only able to be understood by one other woman on the planet. If you think that things have been ridiculous up to this point, then you haven't seen anything, because it only gets more insane from here. Now, I truly hope that you're okay with that, because that's the reality you're gonna have to face for the entirety of the rest of this franchise. I say that because we're jumping into our next two movies right now. Moving into Godzilla vs. Kong, this movie is when shit gets crazy. The script for this movie alone is already like a page longer than the rest of them, so just strap in. The film starts out with Monarch trying to relocate Kong, where Kong is first introduced to Godzilla. Kong was being transported by boat from Skull Island, but was being interrupted by Godzilla, who intercepted them in the middle of the ocean because Godzilla wanted to eviscerate Kong for daring to step off that damn island. After being deemed the literal king of the monsters in the previous movie in the franchise, Big Lizard wasn't too keen on the idea of another alpha stepping into his territory. Godzilla wins the fight after everyone plays dead to make him leave, to which Monarch then flies to Antarctica for the second time in 2 movies. Once they arrive, we then pan to Gia attempting to tell Kong to enter the Hollow Earth, to which he wants nothing to do with it. The one woman who can communicate with Gia, named Eileen, basically tells her to gaslight Kong into thinking that his family's down there, where Kong then immediately runs into the portal with the main characters following close behind. Now, remember how I mentioned it's hard to go to the Hollow Earth safely based on the events of Monarch, Legacy of Monsters? Well, at this point in the chronology of these films, Apex Cybernetics has found a way to traverse the portal safely using ships that they developed, and they allowed Monarch to use them to follow Kong into the Hollow Earth. They all go down there, Kong starts exploring, yada yada, we'll get back to them later.
The center of the earth is fucking hollow!
There's a man introduced in this film named Bernie, who basically acts as a conspiracy theorist podcaster that works for Apex Cybernetics in an attempt to spy on them for some under-the-table business they're conducting. Bernie goes to an Apex facility located in Florida because of fucking course it's in Florida, followed by Godzilla showing up and annihilating the facility. Cut to Bernie teaming up with 2 random children named Madison and Josh, who seek out Bernie because they also want to know what the hell is going on with Apex and why Godzilla attacked. So they then infiltrate another Apex facility and find the company is transporting skullcrawler eggs to Hong Kong. So they hop on the same transport vehicle and hitch a ride to Hong Kong with the eggs. Remember that outpost that Apex had on Skull Island at the end of Legacy of Monsters? Bing bada boom, there's your plot connection to it. So they arrive at the other facility and they end up in a big open room where a test is taking place. What's the test? Introducing the one and only Mecha Godzilla. Apparently Apex, or more specifically Apex's CEO named Walter Simmons, had basically started building a mechanical titan that could rival Godzilla, with the end goal of putting humanity in the place of Earth's dominant species. How does it work? The entire thing is ran with a human pilot that connects to Mechagodzilla using a telepathic computer built off one of the King Ghidorah's skulls. We pan to the pilot connecting to the mecha as a skullcrawler walks in, with the pilot then blasting the fucking thing with a laser to fully cut it in half before
before the mecha loses power. How are they gonna fully power the thing to potentially fight Titans for real? Well, to find out, let's pan back to our Hollow Earth team that had just discovered a massive ancient cavern built by other past Kongs that siphons energy from the center of the Earth. Kong also finds an axe in this place made from one of Godzilla's dorsal spines, so let's just keep that in your mind for later. Right after they find this Go figure, the people in the group that tagged along with Monarch that were from Apex turn out to be evil. They then send up the energy source they find to Walter Simmons on the surface, who uses it to begin powering up the Mechagodzilla for real. Don't ask how the hell that possibly works, just know they scanned the energy source and somehow found out how to recreate it on the surface within moments of getting said scan. This leads Godzilla to show up in Hong Kong where Mechagodzilla is located, since he immediately could tell something was going down the moment the thing activated. Before Mechagodzilla shows up, however, we need the obligatory battle between Kong and Godzilla. Apparently the cavern Kong was in just so happens to be directly below Hong Kong on the surface. How fucking convenient is that? So Godzilla blasts a hole through the goddamn planet into the cavern to scare the hell out of Kong and get him to come to the surface. So he does, and the two fight. One more thing to add, by the way, Godzilla most likely blasted through at least several hundred miles of Earth to get down there, and somehow within the span of a few seconds they're all back up at the surface. I don't understand how the fuck that's supposed to work. I just had to mention that. They said it might even be 1,000 miles. I don't know how the fuck does that work? They got to the surface in maybe 4 seconds. Sorry, I'm recording my live reaction to realizing that. Anyway, back to the script. Kong basically dies and he's immediately brought back, and then Mechagodzilla wakes up. Right after this happens, he immediately kills his creator as he's literally possessed by the skull of King Ghidorah. We then pan to Mechagodzilla fighting Kong and regular Godzilla, with the battle literally only being won because motherfucking Josh pours a bunch of whiskey from Bernie's dead wife onto the console to force Mechagodzilla to briefly lose connection. This brief pause is just enough, apparently, for them to get the upper hand, where Godzilla charges up Kong's axe by blasting it with his atomic breath.
Why did he name his breath after me?
Before Kong eviscerates Mechagodzilla. Godzilla and Kong come to an understanding, Kong goes back to the Hollow Earth, and the movie ends. We have now reached the final, most absurd movie in this franchise. This is the culmination of every insane thing to happen up to this point, so I need you to prepare yourselves. We start with our Godzilla vs. Kong gang venturing into the Hollow Earth along with Bernie, who literally just vlogs everything while he's down there. They go down and check out a Monarch outpost that they had lost contact with, coming to find it's been fully destroyed with no survivors. Why did this happen? Well, we'll get back to that, but first let's pan to Kong. Kong had been thriving in the Hollow Earth, and other than having depression from finding no one else down there, he was doing great. Cut to Kong finding another even more underground space than the usual Hollow Earth, where he does in fact find more apes like himself. He first finds a baby Kong named Suko, to which he uses him like a fucking mace to take down the other Kongs as they try to fight him. Somehow this leads to Kong becoming a father figure to Suko. The two then venture into the area the other Kongs reside in, where Kong discovers an entire tribe of others like him led by a super duper evil ape named Scar King. As Kong bucks in, by the way, something happens that I just have to add in here. I am now going to play one of the funniest scenes across this entire franchise. Anyway, after this, Scar King then pulls out the most badass weapon of all time, that of which being a giant razor whip made from the spine of another titan. At the end of the whip sits this crystal that, at a glance, just seems like a really sharp thing to put on the end of the whip. You want to take a guess at what it does? If you somehow guessed that it telepathically controls a dragon named Shimo that canonically caused the last ice age in this franchise, you would be correct! Moving on, Scar King uses this crystal to take control of Shimo and freezes Kong's arm, so he and Suko immediately leave the area to not get brutally murdered. The two of them then instantly meet up with the human characters that came to the Hollow Earth, so let's go back to their plot. Oh, something I forgot to add regarding the group I mentioned earlier, one of its members happens to be Gia. Eileen signs with her and comes to find out that Gia had been having strange dreams as well as telepathic visions that came from the center of the Earth. The group follows where Gia says the visions are getting stronger and begins to trick down that path that ultimately leads them to, oh my fucking god, it's another human civilization. Humans live in the center of the Earth and they can somehow survive the most lethal landscape in the universe. They find this weird looking wall and they look through it and what the fuck? The Iwi. originated from the center of the earth and predate all known human civilization. They also speak with each other telepathically and had used this ability to lure Gia down there. The queen of the Iwi is shown on screen, who then telepathically infodumps Iwi lore into the mind of Gia. As it turns out, apparently, the ancient Iwi had literally prophesied the battle that would unfold at the end of this movie. So what does Gia do with this information? Well, she revives Mothra from the dead by using nothing but her mind, because Mothra is a character that is immortal and can be summoned back from death. Where the fuck is Godzilla? Oh, killing a titan named Tiamat to absorb her stockpile of energy that built up on the Earth from the sun's solar wind. But back to him later. Godzilla is an afterthought in this movie. Kong shows up with his arm frozen exactly where he needs to be because somehow he has a psychic link with Gia that led him there. Watch this.
That arm looks bad.
That's worse than bad. That's frostbite.
That's worse than bad. This can't end well, right? How can Kong's arm possibly be fixed from this point?
Those injections should heal the frostbite up nicely.
What the fuck is going on? They mechanize Kong and they go get Godzilla to fight Scar King. Kong arrives on the surface in Egypt. Kong roars to alert Godzilla, to which Godzilla hears it instantly, despite the fact that that roar should have taken 3 hours to get there based on the speed of sound. But fuck it, Godzilla books it to Egypt, which is 2,200 miles away from Gibraltar where he is. He then gets there nearly immediately. Godzilla gets so pissed seeing Kong on the surface that he bolts at him on all fours as Kong looks horrified. The two scuffle and are nearly about to kill each other before fucking Mothra and Gia show up, and Gia stands on the top of the Sphinx's head with all of them becoming friends. What is happening? They then team up to fight. Scar King has arrived at the Iwi civilization. Whatever will they do? In comes Kong and Godzilla. They begin fighting Scar King and Shimo in the hollow earth, and as they do, these crystals collide that invert gravity because they just do that. They fight midair for a bit, and the gravity turns on again, causing them all to fall back down. They all go through the portal except for Suko, he did not come. Kong loses his axe as he goes through, quite a shame, and anyway, Shima was causing another goddamn ice age. More scuffling ensues. Suko realizes he wasn't relevant anymore and decides to join the party and make sure to grab Kong's axe as he does. Yeah, so Scar King's whip breaks and he no longer has the crystal to control Shimo in his hands. They all fight for it, and right as all hope is lost, Suko steps in and decides to do one of 3 useful things total in this film. Shimo then aggros immediately and freezes Scar King because if she didn't, Godzilla would have. Kong then sees a golden opportunity. He picks up the frozen Scar King and fucking suplexes him into the ground, shattering him into thousands of pieces! Fuck! Oh my god! I am losing my fucking mind. These movies have broken me on a fundamental level. None of this makes any logical sense, and yet I still somehow know how these events cohesively work with one another. This is insanity. Mothra fixes the weird wall, Kong goes back to the hollow earth with Shimo and Suko to lead the Kong army, and Godzilla goes back to bed inside the Roman Colosseum. Roll credits.